going to be a great episode with James. It's a different angle completely. James was a master's student and he works within the football industry in the UK. So we're really pleased to have him on the call, and hopefully he's going to share a lot of his experiences about how he got into that role. But first of all, yeah, it'd be great if you could just give a little bit of a short introduction, James, around you really, kind of, you know, and if you could include stuff like your high school, kind of your interests, that'd be really good.
Yeah, of course. No, yeah. First off, obviously, thank you for having me. It's nice to see some faces again, have a bit of a catch up. I was with RIASA for the 2014-2015 season as a master's student. I previously did my undergraduate degree in America. So I studied in Billings in Montana at Rocky Mountain College, which was an NAIA school. I started there in 2009, the first year of the men's soccer program. So they'd had women for a fair few years, but I was kind of one of the founding members, if you want to say, of the men's soccer program. And like to think I helped kind of build that up a little bit. After my 4 years, I coached for a year, so I did some assistant work with the men's team, did some coaching in the city as well, and just kind of did little bits of work here and there, and then kind of found about the opportunity at RIASA to continue to kind of get back into playing again, and get a master's degree through Leeds Beckett. So that was kind of a fairly brief journey, brief story even to get to RIASA. I've obviously always been involved in football. I love the game, all aspects of it, and my master's, learning about sponsorship and marketing and different aspects really sparked an interest in me, and it was something that I kind of knew that I wanted to get involved in, and was very lucky to be able to in the end.
Amazing, yeah. So can I just ask, when you were growing up, did you think you wanted to be a footballer, or was that just, did you have that dream, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone does. I did my best to play as competitively as possible at the highest level, and I think at some point you kind of realise that it might not quite happen the way that you plan on happening, where you go into academy and you work your way up and you end up playing for the first team. It doesn't always happen that way. So I got to a point when I was kind of 17, 18, decided I wanted to change my surroundings, basically get some new experiences, see a different culture, and I think Montana was a fairly good place to do that. But yeah, it was I probably only gave up the dream, when I started working at Argyle after leaving RIASA, really. So you always kind of keep it at the back of your mind as long as possible. But
No, great. Yeah, so moving on to the RIASA program then, really. So what were the main reasons why you chose to join RIASA and study a master's?
I think one of the reasons was I didn't really ever consider doing a master's degree. It wasn't something that I've never been, the best kind of academically. So it was something that I'd almost written off. So to have the opportunity and combine it with playing football, coming home back to England, where obviously I haven't been for the best part of 5 years, a new city, different part of the country. It was all just really, really appealing for me. I mean, the coaches that we had at the time as well, one of them was I'd watched on the telly before I'd gone out to America and stuff. So it was, and obviously, knowing football, knowing obviously about Mark, and I saw John Hendry play a little bit as well when I was younger. Probably not Mark necessarily, but maybe John. So it was just all really appealing, really. Yeah.
Yeah, no, amazing. So what qualification did you leave with? So you did sport business. Maybe you could just discuss that a little bit.
Yeah, so I left with a sport business masters, and yeah, I mean the whole course was something that I enjoyed massively. I found that all of our professors and were incredibly helpful, willing to help us, wanted us to learn, were engaging, gave us opportunities, advice, and I think that was really important. I kind of always, whenever I kind of speak to people, I say that year at RIASA and Leeds is kind of the one that really kick-started my career in working in professional football and sport, and without that I'm certain that I wouldn't be in this position now.
Wow, that's great. Can you talk about some of the best moments that you kind of enjoyed on the program when you was here?
Yeah, I think it was, obviously I was part of the graduate program, obviously training with the undergrads every day, but getting that bond with your teammates and kind of going back to living with them and stuff is something that you learn about. Everyone's from a different part of America as well. I'd obviously spend a bit of time there, but getting to know people, and obviously the football. I mean, we were quite lucky. Obviously, we played West Ham, Motherwell, went to Burnley. I missed the game against Bradford. Unfortunately, I was injured. But yeah, I mean, experiences like that and playing against, continue playing against pros and testing yourself was someone I really, tried to relish as much as possible. Really.
Yeah, no, amazing. So, what kind of tips could you give out in terms of like how you could succeed on the program?
I think you've got to, obviously I know that I'm sure the majority of lads that are either on this call or on the program or whatever are chasing a dream, and that's obviously fine, but you've got to still be realistic, and you've got to have, whether it's a backup plan, whether it's a plan B, whatever you want to call it, something that you want to do outside of football. There's, to be fairly, to be frank, there's obviously, you can get injured. There's lots of different circumstances. You need to have a plan. You need to, and I think basing that around your interests and what you're passionate about is really key. I know a lot of people, a lot of businessmen, entrepreneurs say that, that have started successful businesses, have started them and are successful because it's something that they love, and they started it as almost a hobby and a passion, and it's grown, and because they have that passion in it, it comes natural and it's organic. So yeah, read, listen to podcasts, and just immerse yourself in stuff that you're passionate about, really.
Yeah, no, that's really good, and that leads on to my next question, really, about what you just said about being, everyone here probably has a dream that they want to be a professional footballer, but you have to be realistic. So kind of how did you develop your awareness of other jobs within sport, really? So how did that come about?
So I think it was, kind of before, especially before I started my masters, you don't really necessarily think about kind of the kind of backroom and office side of professional football, especially at kind of League One, League Two level. Yeah. It's not something that I'd ever kind of been taught about. You see obviously little bits on the internet and stuff, but I think finding out about that there are a lot of different jobs within sport, and given those opportunities, I did an internship for 6 months with Sports Direct, and shadowed their head of Nike football, and used to do a day a week. And that opportunity for me was brilliant. I got, they looked after me. They took me to go-to-market conferences in London at their headquarters, and I got to kind of sit in on budgetary meetings and stuff like that. And you just kind of learn, and if you want to learn, you take it all in and you act like a sponge. So I think opportunities like that, and just speaking to people and learning that there are, there's a lot of different avenues to get into in sport, definitely.
Yeah, amazing. That sounds like a really good mentality to kind of like dip your toe into different areas and kind of dig deep to kind of get something out of it, really.
Yeah, definitely. And it's something that I was kind of always, I think it kind of comes from my upbringing as well. Always, try and be passionate, listen to people, because at the end of the day, the majority of time, especially when you're early 20s and stuff like that, the majority of people that you're listening to have experience in the world. So, listen to them and take on board what they're saying.
Yeah, perfect. So we're going to move on to kind of your career now and go into a bit more detail about that. So kind of, can you talk about what happened after the RIASA programme in as much detail as possible, really?
Yeah, of course. So I'll kind of go back just before the end of the programme and my masters. So we obviously do a large piece of work at the end of it, and I've kind of framed mine around football, and specifically around the success that, well, the lack of success that clubs in the southwest of England have had in the Premier League. So obviously, I'm a Plymouth Argyle fan. So for me to obviously kind of work for them now is brilliant. But it was an area of the country I was interested in because of that. So I made sure that I framed it so I could gather the correct data, reach out to supporters groups, and also reached out to the chief executive of all of those clubs, to be able to interview them as part of gaining that data that I would obviously base my the dissertation, the majority of that on, and thankfully, well, the only chief exec that actually got back to me was the one at Argyle at the time, and he invited me down and I interviewed him for about an hour, I think it was. Got kind of all the stuff out of the way, and we talked again for a little bit longer. He had at the time one of his children, I think, was at university or recently finished, so he was fairly clued up on what was going on. And when I got up and left, I said to him, like, look, I'm finishing my masters in a few months. I want to get into working in football. I know you've been at a few clubs in different guises. If you hear of anything, please put my name forward. And he was like, yeah. And sometimes you kind of think, they say they will, but you never hear anything. And kind of out of the blue, a couple of months later, he sent me an email and asked if I was interested in interviewing for a position they had. And obviously I jumped at the chance, and yeah, the kind of rest is history, I guess. But massive credit to him for following up and thinking of me. And you got to get in front of people and make an impression. So
yeah, no, that's unbelievable, really. It'd be great if you could just kind of describe your current role now within Plymouth Argyle, kind of what you do on a day-to-day basis. Maybe that'd be really good.
Yeah, of course. So my current role is partnership development manager. The club's changed a lot behind the scenes since I've been there for the past 5 years. So it wasn't the job that I started off doing. My original title was corporate sales executive. So now I'm doing a lot of work with our partner portfolio, with the businesses that have supported the club. And it's something that we can, it's a real area that's really growing across football. The old kind of sponsorship model that's transactional is starting to die out a little bit. And I think the actual building of relationships and mutually beneficial is really key. So it's something that at the club we're trying to enhance, trying to make the most of. And build really long-lasting relationships with, especially with Plymouth's kind of, for the majority, some people on this call may not know where it is. It's kind of really down southwest and kind of cut off a little bit, because it is we're the most southerly and westerly professional team currently in the pyramid. So we do rely a lot on local business. And an incredible support that we get from them. So, building really key relationships is a massive part of that at the moment. So,
yeah, amazing. So, 5 years, I'm a fan. So, what does that feel like? 5 years at somewhere, especially in the sport, within a sporting club.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, it's absolutely flown by. It was a bit surreal when I first started. Because I've obviously been an Argyle fan, going to games and stuff, and literally a week or so before I joined, I was in the away end. I think it was Dagenham or Redbridge or something like that, and we ended up getting a late equaliser. And a couple of weeks later, you're sitting in the office, and the lads are kind of coming through and just talking to you, and it's a little, it took a little while getting used to, and try and stay kind of professional about it, and not be a fanboy, and couple of players that you've seen come through, you've been watching since you were a kid, really, and people you know and you've always seen. So yeah, it was a bit surreal, but I think you fall into it quite quickly, and everyone's just normal people at the end of the day, aren't they? So
yeah, no, perfect. So in your current role, do you kind of have any links with the senior or youth academy?
We do a bit of stuff in terms of kind of the commercial aspect. We look at seeing what we can do in terms of generating as much money for the academy and club as possible. But I mean, outside of we don't have a lot of conversations really outside of what we can try and do commercially. Because obviously we're a fairly small club in the pyramid. Any investment and money and revenue that we can get in for the academy is obviously going to make a difference. So it's something that we do what we can to do, but it's quite difficult, and I'm sure a lot of clubs find themselves in the same position. And you see clubs every now and again kind of fold their academies as it costs too much to run and it's not beneficial, and there are other ways around it. But we've seen some good success with ours, so hopefully we can keep building it, and gaining, continuing to help those revenue streams as best we can.
Yeah, no, for sure. So how do you think being at RIASA kind of helped you succeed?
I think you've got to be competitive, and you want to do well. And I think for me, especially knowing that, you've got the situation we had a lot of good players, especially in the graduate side, and knowing that there's if you have a bit of a drop in form or whatever, then someone will overtake you, and you might not be starting or playing as much as you want to be playing. And I mean, it was only a short year, so you need to make the most of it. But I think taking that into the professional world is key. There's always going to be people that are working just as hard, if not hard as you. And if you let anything slip, then there's always someone that will come and take that spot. And it mirrors football in a lot of ways. And I think if you continue that mentality, then you end up being successful and kind of getting to where you want to be.
Yeah, no, really good advice. So it'd be great now if you could kind of provide a bit of guidance for students. So kind of if you could give some tips on getting into sport related jobs, kind of how they could get into the football industry, really.
Yeah, I think it's I think you've got to put yourself out there. You can't be afraid to, you're at the end of the day to kind of, I did what I could to sell myself. I knocked on doors and eventually one opened. I think you've got to be able to do that. And I think, it replicates what you might actually get up to in, say if you fall into a sales position, the amount of doors that you knock that don't open or people shut them in your face is vast. So you've got to develop a thick skin, but getting yourself out in front of people, making an impression on people, making sure they remember you for all the right reasons, being presentable, being early, being smart, being engaging, stuff like that has a lasting impression on people. And I think a bit of belief that, people are willing to help if I ever get an email of someone that, wants to ask me some questions for their dissertation or something, I'll always go out of my way and try to help and spend some time answering them because people gave that to me. And I think the world, kind of full of cliches tonight, but I think the world kind of comes, it goes around in a big circle and does, and you do see what happens and you reap the benefits and see the rewards as well. So a lot of networking for me, try and utilize platforms like LinkedIn. I try and be as active on LinkedIn as possible. I don't use it as much as a selling tool anymore, but to kind of, other people use it to meet people and start conversations. And so I think, especially platforms like LinkedIn, as you kind of progress from RIASA into that world of work potentially, are really key.
Yeah, no, I think that's a strong message. I think because there's probably football clubs probably receive a lot of applications, don't they? And people chancing it, if you like, getting in touch So I think that's a strong message you're trying to say there, is in you need to kind of go out of your way to try and kind of like be relatable and, you know, try and get in front of people so they remember you really.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's so many people that, you know, especially at this kind of time as well, when, you know, people are unfortunately, you know, losing their jobs, and the amount of applicants for each job role is increasing. You've got to stand out from the crowd and be remembered and stuff like that. So
yeah, no, amazing. You just said something about LinkedIn that kind of leads on to our next question, but is that the only platform you would think to kind of use to find any job related, any sport related jobs, or is there anything else out there that you're aware of?
I think obviously LinkedIn's a really good one. You know, even just getting connections and kind of and seeing what's out there, join a few groups on there. And I think just, you know, organically on the news feed with other people liking stuff that you follow appearing, you know, it can be, you know, it can see something that you may not have seen before. And it's, you know, it's completely different to like Facebook. You don't necessarily need to know someone or even spoken to them to connect. And there might be something down the line where actually, you know, you can almost use it as a database to jump on and go, I'm looking for someone in this field or at this club or whatever that does this. And it's easy to find, if that person's on it. But I think for me, LinkedIn's, I use it a lot, and it's worked really well for us as a club, and, you know, getting a bit of business here and there. But I even, you know, I started using it when, you know, probably midway through my master's, when I was at RIASA. I was connecting with people, and even if you just drop a quick message necessarily and just say hi, look, get, you know, a bit of an explanation of what you're after, even if it's just a conversation. I know that people are willing to give you half an hour via Zoom or Teams or whatever, and just answer some questions. You know, it makes those people feel good that people want to learn from them as well. And I think, you know, kind of teaching's the best form of learning as well. If you can try and impart some wisdom, it massively helps.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful. I think as well, I just want to say, you know, I think you kind of admitted that you had a dream of, you know, being a footballer, but you were realistic about it. And for me, you know, you've had a great career. You're working in sport. You know, you're working for a club that you love. Just it'd be interesting to see. So, how many jobs would you roughly say Plymouth Argyle employ people? Just a top figure. So I'm just trying to create a picture for our students that, you know, there's a lot of opportunities within football clubs, within the sporting world, rather than just being a footballer.
Yeah, so we have, I mean, to give you a bit of an example, the departments we've got football admin, so kind of made up of our club secretary and player liaison. We've got marketing and communications, so there's 3 or 4 people within that. Within our commercial department, there's 3 of us. You know, there's obviously the maintenance and ground side of it as well, that have got a good number of people, and I think we've got maybe 5 or 6 in there. With obviously the academy side, we've got a community trust as well that's massive. So that's linked to the club, and they do kind of coaching. They go out, they teach, they do all sorts through Devon, Cornwall, up into Somerset. They've got a vast number of employees that cover all sorts. So it's not even necessarily football, but the community trusts that relate to that as well. If you do want to do coaching, you know, it's an avenue to then potentially, you know, get into the, you know, if you're struggling to get into an actual academy, there's so much coaching at community trust to get yourself noticed at different levels as well to move in. So it all intertwines. I mean, we've, you know, to kind of come back to your question, we've probably got, you know, 30 odd, 40 members of staff maybe across all aspects. And, you know, some clubs are bigger, some clubs are smaller. You know, clubs like Sunderland, for example, that have been in the Premier League, you know, fairly recently, have got much bigger operation than we have. So they've obviously got more staff, bigger ground, you know, proper separate training pitch and facility. So there's all sorts that, you know, even analysts, you know, data scientists, nutrition. It's, you know, it really, you know, and you can almost make a role your own if it's something that they don't have and the right opportunity arises as well.
Yeah, no, that's Amazing. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's why I just wanted to ask, because Plymouth for a League One side, and you're saying it's at the bottom of the country, etc. But even then, it's quite a wide range of a variety of jobs, and as you go up higher in the leagues, bigger clubs, there's going to be a lot more positions. So it's just opening their eyes really, and to say that there's a lot of opportunity out there really.
Yeah.
No.
Matt, can I just ask a question around this?
Yes.
James, I don't know whether at Plymouth, do you have possibilities for internships?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we've looked at in the past, and I think it's if we can make sure it's right, then yeah, absolutely. We don't have a closed door about anything. So if someone's interested in an internship, I mean, I think we've got a physio that's kind of in the middle of doing his kind of degree, that's having a year with us. So if it works and it fits and it's the right time, then absolutely. Obviously, it's really difficult at the moment in the current climate. But yeah, there's definitely opportunities, not just with us. I know that a lot of clubs look for internships with analysts and stuff as well. It's quite a popular one, and that gives you the opportunity to kind of see literally the other side of the camera, and kind of look at what managers want, look at what drives the team and what they talk about, especially in the week run up to games. And I'm sure you guys, you do some of that anyway, but to kind of see it on a professional level is, I'm sure incredibly interesting and might spark something.
And second part to it, James, if we've got 20 students on the call, if they were to be looking at maybe going around the internship, what would be a couple of pieces of advice? Because you obviously looked early doors, so a couple of little nuggets from you about if you're going down the internship route, what would you advise them to do?
Speak to as many people as possible, reach out, try and plan as well. Obviously, kind of if there's within professional football in this country, obviously the summer's quite a bit of a downtime. Sometimes it's, especially on the football side of things, staff can move around, so there might be little opportunities that come up here and there. People look at kind of restructuring and planning for the coming season. So I definitely think towards the end of a season and the beginning of the next, that period is, it's when we do all of our renewals that need doing, and it's kind of where we reset as a club almost. So I would definitely look at planning, around that summer period. Obviously, it can be difficult. Decision makers and stuff are away on holiday, but it's a good period, as a start of a season for an internship, for example. If you wanted to get into helping out on the physio side of things, it's going to be a lot more difficult to come in kind of November, December time than it would be before the start of pre-season, when they actually need help. The lads are running, they need rubs and all sorts, where you can actually say, look, I'm going to help as an extra pair of hands here, and you end up being valuable and not and staying for the whole season or whatever.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Martin, for the question. So from me, really, that's my questions, James. So what we'll do now is we'll open it up to a question and answer session from our students. So hopefully they can ask you some questions and you can get them answered, really.
All right.
If you have any questions, feel free to ask James. It's a really good opportunity to ask anything about working within sport.
Matthew, can I ask the first question?
Please, Mark, go on.
Usually that's the first one. So, James, is your ambition to get to be the CEO of Plymouth? I'm sure you're capable of doing it. Eventually, do you want to get right to the top? Is that what you want to do?
Yeah, I think, being I'm ambitious and kind of getting into a profession like this. You do meet lots of people and stuff as well. You meet a lot of other commercial guys at other clubs and what have you. And I want to be as successful as possible. Whether it's staying at Argyle forever, who knows? But working my way up that ladder and doing and just being the best I can, really, and continued growth and what have you. So yeah, I mean, obviously, kind of the chief exec positions are kind of top of that tree. But even even commercial director, and that's way down the line. But you always have to have a bit of an eye on where you want to go to, really, and the process of getting there as well.
Yeah, the reason I ask is because when we started RIASA, the guy that I started RIASA with, I got him into Bradford City, and he was the chief exec there, and he did it free for 6 months to show the club what he can do, and then he did so well at it. He got headhunted by Burnley in the Premier League. He spent 5 or 6 years there, and then, believe it or not, he was the chief exec of the Football League. So he was the top man in all the Football League. Incredible, really, and in fact, I think he's just left that position, and that's probably got something to do with COVID, and probably the structure's changed a little bit. But this is a guy that I just met on a charity football match, and he finishes up CEO of the Football League. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's a good journey, that.
Yeah, incredible. But it just goes to show, you go out there, you meet people, and if you come across well, where you can get to.
Exactly.
Thanks, James.
Thanks, Mark, for the question.
No worries.
Anyone else for another question? To give it a minute.
James, can I ask you? Well, first one's a bit of information for the students. In terms of internships in England, throughout the different leagues, there are enormous opportunities to be taken, as James has explained to you. So at Southampton, at times there would have been 40, maybe even more internships. That's at that level. But my question's this, James, and I'm going to pin you, because you appear to me to be a winner with everything that you've done. So what would be 5 things that you would look for somebody to be a winner in life, not just in football, but who are the people that you've seen and been influenced by that are winners, and why?
I'll see if I can do 5. I think
three
the
or
first 3. All right. Well, if we do 3, I might have a couple more. But I think the first one, you have to be driven. You have to kind of know what you want and work towards getting it. I think the second one, I think you have to be. I think a lot of it is. I think I mentioned this earlier, but you have to be presentable, and you have to be able to make an impression on someone. And you have to know what's around you as well, as kind of moving into a third one. You need to know that environment around you, whereas it's not just you're focused on yourself and what's going on, but you need to open up to the whole environment. You need to see what other people are doing. Can we do it better? Can we learn from them? And really take everything on board. And I think it's all just a learning process, really. I mean, it's not. I like to think that I'm never going to get to a point. Well, I hope I don't get to a point where I know everything. You want to keep learning and developing. I think that's about between 3 and 5, kind of without necessarily bullet points. But there's a few in there for you, I think, anyway.
Thank you.
Thanks, Martin. Thanks, James. Any more questions?
I have a quick question. What did you study in undergrad?
I double majored in sports management and business management. They overlapped. The classes that we took overlapped quite well. But it gave me a broad kind of footing. I mean, we did stuff from, I had to go through managerial accounting, which is something that, I never ever planned on being an accountant. I really struggled with it, but, I can now smash out a balance sheet, and I never thought I'd probably have to. So, it's everything that you pick up stuff quite easily, and being as well-rounded as possible really, really helps.
Okay, and then just as like a follow-up for that, I know you just said you did your master's in the same thing. To get into the football industry like that, do you think that the master's is a helpful thing to have, or is just the undergrad going to be enough to sort of help you break into the industry?
It's a really difficult one, and it's a great question, because I know people that work in football, work in good positions that don't necessarily have a degree or kind of much of a higher education. They've started at the bottom and worked their way up. I think if you've got, whether it's an undergrad or a master's, if you can kind of show and prove that you've used it to either grow, gain knowledge and stuff like that, then yeah, it's going to be helpful. But if you go on and do a master's, you don't really, you need to be able to use it and make it kind of part of you. You're selling yourself almost. And if you don't, if you just do it for no real reason, it kind of makes it pointless. So, I mean, I used mine. I used the whole process the year to try and get myself in a position and manage to. And, it's not going to happen to everyone, but you give yourself the best opportunity at the end of the day.
Okay, thank you.
That's all right.
Thanks, Ethan. Anyone else? Question?
Come on, Callum, you must have one. I've been telling James questions tonight.
Ethan stole my question, so I'm a bit stuck.
No way, Callum. Come on.
So I have a question. So like, basically, like a lot of us are on like student visas. So if we were to do like an internship, and then that would like hopefully end up into having a full-time job, would that help us get like a visa in the UK or anywhere in Europe?
Yeah, I mean, potentially. I mean, I know obviously I'm not massively clued up on kind of your visa requirements and stuff. I know a little bit more going the other way, but it's I mean, if you can, I don't know if it still comes down to sponsorship and stuff of the visa from the companies or businesses, but if you can prove that you're worth it, and for them to help you get a work visa to stay or whatever, then that's perfect. It's not always going to happen, and like I said, I'm not massively clued up on it, but it's not. I don't think it's necessarily easy, and it wasn't. For me, after I finished my undergrad, staying in America was quite difficult. I've got a fair few friends that still live out there, but also a fair few that come back and struggle to stay out there and stuff. So I think it's if you can make yourself valuable, then and companies and businesses wanna take you on, then yeah, the internship potentially leads to that with some hard work and impressing people.
Thanks, James. Thanks, Cedric, for the question. Callum, have you got a question yet? Anyone else?
Yeah, I do actually. What, like, in football clubs, do they what sort of qualities are they looking for in like an employee?
I mean, I try to put myself across as a self-starter and someone that is not afraid to start relationships, especially within the commercial side of football. A lot of it is sales, and it's kind of where the avenue I started in. So I think you've got to be a starter. Is obviously the same with any sales position. You've got to be hungry. You've got to be able to go out there and not worry about being told no, and getting the door shut in your face. But I think hard work. I mean, especially in kind of League One, League Two level, the clubs are kind of so small in terms of staff that you need to show that you're hardworking and valuable. I mean, there's we're small enough. In the past, I helped the groundsman pull on some ground sheets on a Friday night before the game, before it kind of 7-8 o'clock at night, and staff of other members of staff had done the same, pull the ground sheets off in the morning, help divot the pitch if it's raining an awful lot, stuff like that. You need to be adaptable and show that you're valuable and hardworking.
All right, thank you. And also, like, how you said about football clubs, and they have like a wide variety of like roles you can get into. Like, but does it like depend on the level of the football club? For example, like say someone like Manchester City, they'll have a wide range of football clubs rather than, I'd say, I don't know, Harrogate Town would be like, you know, a sort of wouldn't like limited. Is that, would you agree with that, or is it not really the case?
Yeah, no, it's definitely the case. I mean, we have 3 people in our commercial team at the moment, and I know that we've got 3 people in our marketing and comms. I know that in some marketing teams they've got like 8 people of kind of different levels of seniority within that department. So it's kind of, I think it's it's obviously based on, it kind of comes down to what the club kind of brings in and how much money the club makes and their financial position to bring on more people. You bring on more people, you get to do more, you get to be involved in more, you do more work, and there's more hands. And I think, yeah, obviously, like you said about Harrogate, they've they're only recently in the Football League, but they'll be looking to start to grow. They'll be looking at potentially bring in. They might be looking to expand their commercial department, for example. As they look to stay in the Football League and try and gain extra revenue to help be competitive and stuff like that. I mean, I've got no idea if that's the case. I don't want to talk for them, but clubs like that, to try and establish themselves and then build, you end up expanding naturally. So the higher up you get, the more staff I think there are. The bigger clubs, definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Callum. Thanks, James. Any more questions for James while he's here? Wait a second.
Yeah, I have a question.
Hey, Shane.
So you've been there at Plymouth for about 5 years now.
Yep.
They've been promoted from League 2 to League 1. So with that, how has it changed the business or in general from League 2 to League 1?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Since I've been there, we got to a playoff final at Wembley, which we lost. We were then promoted. We were relegated, and we were promoted again last season. So it's been a bit up and down. Unfortunately, it's a little bit difficult for me to kind of answer, because the League 1 and League 2 are very similar in terms of size of club, kind of ability on the pitch and stuff. Obviously, you got a few exceptions like Sunderland, for example, that they're a bit of an anomaly in terms of what they do commercially, especially. But I think we've expanded. We've since I've been at the club, we've had a new chairman who actually currently lives in America. But I think it kind of, you can try and grow, but I think between League 2 and League 1, there's not massive room for growth. But we've got plans to become a sustainable championship side. And I think to do that, you have to start to grow a little early. So when we did make it to obviously League 1 this year, there were changes within the football staff. We have increased our department a little bit, and kind of restructured the club in certain areas. So I think there's definite growth, but it needs to kind of be right. When we went up originally, there wasn't really much growth. We kind of looked to stay where we are with stuff changed a little bit, but now it's a different animal. And actually going up and getting promoted is, we can look to establish and then push on, especially as that's kind of the club's goals at least.
Great question, Shane.
James, what's your budget compared with other clubs in League 1? Do you know?
Kind of commercially, it really differs. You've got some, you've got some clubs that are, potentially, half or third less than what we're on, that we're working to, and then you've got some that are, potentially double or triple. And it's the same in, it's the same in League 2 as well. They do, they differ massively. I mean, we're quite lucky. We're a fairly big club in terms of what we do in terms of season tickets and stuff like that. We're kind of 5th, 6th, 7th around that. So we've got a fairly healthy budget, but it really does depend. Obviously, the salary caps coming in. They're going to potentially look at changing that. So it's really is dependent club by club, but we're kind of a little bit higher than middle, I would say.
Cheers. Okay.
Thanks, Mark. Anyone else got any questions?
I got one more question. So when you first started working at Plymouth, I mean, how prepared did you really feel for the role that you had? Do you feel like with the schooling that you had in education, you came in with a good idea of what to do, or has it been more of a learn on the fly kind of role?
I would definitely say it was 50-50. I knew that, especially my last year, my masters and stuff really did help, because it was way more specific in terms of football, like football and sport in this country, at least anyway. Whereas my undergrad was it was more general. But I think that, you know, it was my first job. I'd always kind of been in education and stuff, so there was still going to be a massive amount of learning for me to do. And I think the best way you can do that is learn on the job, make some mistakes, learn from it, and kind of build yourself. I did, I tried to immerse myself for the first couple of months, do a bit of reading, make sure I expanded my LinkedIn network, and stuff like that. But yeah, I definitely wasn't. You can't be 100% prepared, I don't think. But my year at Leeds with RIASA was really, really helpful.
Thanks. I mean, I guess to kind of follow up on that, what kind of things as far as like professional development once you're in the game do you think are effective tools to, obviously just working, and the longer you're there, the more you're going to learn, but what other things would you suggest as far as sort of, expanding your knowledge and improving your ability to kind of operate in the role?
I think I've, especially kind of since lockdown, especially, I think I've changed and managed to look at a few different mediums about like my personal kind of development. So listen to a lot of podcasts. I like the High Performance podcast with Jake Humphrey's brilliant. That's one that is fairly new, but is something that I've learned a lot from. And just doing little bits and courses and stuff here and there. They don't have to be massive, but it kind of just keep your brain ticking over, keep looking at new things. It's really just make the most of as much as you can, really. I don't know if that's a massively helpful answer, but
no, good, thank you.
Thanks, Ethan. Anyone else have a dying question for James before he goes? I think we're all questioned out, James.
No, that's fine. Yeah, that's not a problem.
So yeah, I just want to say we really appreciate you coming on. I've enjoyed it. I think it's definitely opened up different avenues for our students in terms of, it's not all just about being on the pitch.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd just like to say thank you for coming along, really.
No, thank you for having me. It's been good and nice to obviously catch up with Mark briefly. And I mean, if anyone does, have any questions or anything moving on, I'm sure Mark or Matt or whatever can pass my details on if there is anything that kind of comes up. But yeah, thank you again, and yeah, it's nice being on this.
It's really nice you to come on and really informative. Thank you.
No, pleasure.
Thank you very much. Some great information. Thank you.
No
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Where can we get your contact info?
I think either Matt or Mark have my email address, so they can obviously. I think they've got my personal email, so I think they can share that one. As you can share it as wide as you want if need be, and yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you.
No worries.
Thanks, James. Brilliant. Thank you.